For joining us this morning. I do want to apologise for the delays, but both our mayors are here, so we will begin proceedings. As we know the rules, there will be a question and answer session afterwards, but we'll start first with our Head of International Relations, Sendo Mpaka, who will take us through some of the logistics you can expect. For the upcoming week, after which the Executive Mayor for the City of Tshwane, Dr. Moya, will take you through her remarks, and the Executive Mayor for the City of Johannesburg, Councillor Morero, will conclude. We will then open up for questions and answers, and you know the gig there. But for now, over to you, Mr. Mpaka.
Thank you, Sam, and a very good morning to the principals, members of the media, colleagues. I am being assigned to just take you through a rundown of logistics, which I believe most of you who participated in the media launch on the 3rd of March were probably alerted to. So from that particular day of the 3rd of March, what we did as both cities, it was to put together a stakeholder mapping. We identified key stakeholders and partners that we'll be collaborating with, including the traditional leadership, including getting corporate on board at academic institutions and so forth. There was then an outreach and public participation process. We also went out through the IDP processes of both cities just to alert our communities out there what to expect in terms of the U20 and African Mayors Assembly. Parallel to that, there were also webinars, 4 webinars that were conducted, and 2 were led by the City of Johannesburg, 2 were led by the City of Tshwane, and those are the inclusive growth, climate resilience, digital transformation, financing, and social inclusion. These are fundamental to the discussions that will be taking place in the next 2 days at the CSIR, and they also are shaping the input on the community that will then be handed over to the global leaders after the mayoral summit that takes place in September in Johannesburg. And this is where we believe we will derive the purpose of why it is important for African mayors to make this input during this next 2 days. Beyond that, there was already a virtual Sherpa meeting on the 6th of March, which further developed the first draft of the communique. We are now on round 2, where the cities are making progress in terms of the inputs, and that is where, as African cities or the Global South, we believe it is an opportunity for us to enhance that aspect of Global South input in that communique. We then, as we all are aware, that the entire country actually has been suffering a fiscal strain, we embarked on a fundraising drive to get partnership and sponsorships to support this effort. There were a number of partners that we support, that rather committed to support this effort, and I think on the 22nd of April, that is where this sponsorship drive was launched, and a number of, I think we had about 2 embassies rather, and a number of other private sector participants. And amongst with, I think today we are also pleased to have our headline or main sponsor that made that pledge on that evening, being Nteso, which is part of the partnerships that the city has established moving forward. I must also emphasize that that particular drive has not come to an end. This cycle of Urban 20 is taking place up until we hand over to the next US city, as both City of Joburg and Tshwane, and therefore we will embark on ensuring that we get necessary support, especially that there are a number of legacy projects that we aim to be supported moving forward. And those legacy projects in the City of Tshwane, it will be launched on the 11th of June as part of our engagement with the young people. There is a schools program that is being launched at Groenkloof on the 11th, and basically it is where we are introducing our learners to the sustainability space, the manufacturing space, our heritage, our ecological infrastructure, and there will also be a publication that is basically launched, which will give a good sense for those that don't know the City of Tshwane, what it can offer. We will be launching that, and following that there will also be subsequent NPO empowerment programs. There's also been a small business or SMME support by both TIDA and the Department of Economic Development. And I think what is important is that even the residents that have not really been privy to what we have in terms of cultural sites, heritage, and also what it means to be in the capital city. For example, the number of embassies, the level of partnerships that we can establish with them. That publication will be able to give that particular, or rather paint that particular picture clearly. And lastly, in terms of the next 2 days, what is expected, we are expecting our guests. In total, there are about in terms of the Sherpa cities around the globe, 32 confirmed cities. And in terms of the African continental African cities, we have got, as of 9 o'clock this morning, it was 20. We have a good reason to believe that by 4 o'clock, because there were some few visa application issues, we might have the other two confirming, meaning up to 22. And in addition to that, of course, we are extending our participation, particularly from mayors from the South African local government space. So there will be local mayors from other cities in the Republic. We expect to have a 2-day conferencing, high level, most of them through sessions, especially for Sherpas. But there's also some side events. We are partnering with the likes of Salga, MasterCard, TIDA will also be having a energy summit on the 13th, and this is also an opportunity for the city to share its journey around the energy space transition and so forth. And on day 3, we also will be taking our visitors to an excursion just to go and see the other parts of the city, and we have identified Dinokeng to be one of those that we can actually demonstrate. I forgot to mention that there will also be a visit to Freedom Park. I think this one will actually augur well to rather change the narrative that has been in the media lately about who South Africans are. We've got an opportunity to actually share our story, and the Freedom Park is the best place to do that. So hence, we have identified it to take our visitors there. And the last stop will be a meet and greet at the Union Buildings, where the presidency said they would like to just have a small welcome ceremony, and actually it will be a farewell to some of the visitors as they will start leaving. We are expecting them to start arriving from tomorrow, and the last will be, I think, leaving on the 15th. Executive Mayors, thank you so much. I hope I've covered everything, Sam.
Cool. Thank you.
Truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mpaka. Over to you, Dr. Moya.
Thank you so much, Sam. Good morning, Deputy Executive Mayor, the MMCs, the members of the media that are here, my fellow Executive Mayor, Mayor Morero, and most importantly, the residents of Tshwane and Johannesburg and fellow citizens. Firstly, let's again reiterate our apology for starting late. I know we've made this promise in this boardroom that We will try to start on time, but sometimes life happens. But please do accept our sincere apology for the late start. Thank you, DH, for the overview and the progress that we have made since the last time that we had this discussion when we were launching the U20 cycle of 2025 that's proudly hosted in South Africa and in Africa for the first time. And in our reflections with Mayor Morero is that this opportunity may not come back to Africa, at least in the next 20 years. So we proudly host this on behalf of Africa. But I think it's also fair to say that we're also hosting this on behalf of Gauteng, South Africa, Africa, and the Global South, but also for the rest of the cities across the globe. From our side, we made a commitment, ladies and gentlemen, that we're not going to host a cliche of an event. That when we get an opportunity like this, we must make sure that there's impact. The only way to measure impact is through the legacy that you leave with the people. And so what the DH has highlighted is what our efforts to make sure that the outcome of these engagements will benefit not only the people of Tshwane and Joburg, but the people of Gauteng and South Africa as a whole. So on behalf of the city of Tshwane, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the capital city of South Africa and to this historic occasion as we host the first Urban 20 Sherpa meeting and African Mayors Assembly to take place on African soil. This is a landmark moment for our capital city. It is also a turning point in the story of how cities, and particularly African cities, are stepping forward to shape the future of our urban world. Together with our sister city, City of Johannesburg, we are proud to co-host this milestone. It is the first time the Urban 20 convenes on the African continent. It comes at a time when the global context demands agency, unity, and bold leadership. Over the next 2 days, starting from the 12th, 96 U20 Sherpas will come together to draft the policy proposals that will be taken forward to the G20. This is where the real work begins. It is where cities align their voices and set out a shared vision for urban progress. Across South Africa and around the world, cities are grappling with interconnected challenges of climate change, inequality, and economic strain. These pressures require more than conversation, ladies and gentlemen. They call for coordination, commitment, and action. So for us, by hosting the U20 Sherpa meeting and the African Mayors Assembly, we're ensuring that the African's voice or the Africa's voice is not only present, but actively shaping the G20 agenda at the highest level. One of the reflections that we've had in various engagements as African city leaders is that we are told there is a table, but we don't have the seat at the table. And for us, the intentional decision to host the African Mayors Assembly alongside the U20 Sherpa meeting is for us to create the table that we deserve as African city leaders to reflect about the challenges that we are having, but also about what we are doing to solve the problems that we have. So the gathering reminds us that while the issues we face are global, the most effective solutions are local. Cities are where policy meets reality. They are the drivers of innovation, the front lines of resilience, and the pulse of economic renewal. African cities, with all their complexity, determination, and creativity, are central to building a more just and sustainable future. Through the U20, our cities are giving rise to a new form of multilateralism. It is grounded in the lived experiences of local communities. Hence, there's been an intentional inclusion of our residents in different platforms to make sure that they follow what is it that we are hosting and what is it that we intend to achieve out of hosting this U20 Sherpa meeting. It places people and planet at the city, at the center, and it connects global ambition with practical action on the ground. For the first time, and I want to emphasize this U20 process takes place alongside a dedicated African Mayors Assembly. This is a powerful platform for us to address our continent-specific priorities, from climate adaptation to equitable service delivery. The Assembly will ensure that Africa's urban agenda is meaningfully reflected in the communique that will be submitted to the G20 at the end of the year. In Tshwane, we do want to indicate that we're not only joining the conversation now. We have shown and demonstrated the kind of leadership that the African cities must demonstrate at all times. We have invested in infrastructure that builds climate resilience and supports inclusive growth. We budget through the climate budget initiative that responds to the question, the infrastructure that we put in place, is it responding to the climate change? We're advancing pro-poor economic policies through the recently adopted economic revitalization strategy. And we're empowering the next generation, not through rhetoric, but through real and deliberate action. Tshwane is positioning itself as a center for skills development, innovation, and opportunity. So, ladies and gentlemen, one of the projects that has been announced as one of the legacy projects is the launch of the U20 Schools Legacy Program that will be launching on Wednesday at Groenkloof Nature Reserves. Even after the 2025 U20 cycles, this program will continue. It will provide meaningful pathways for youth into careers in business, tourism, and sustainability. These are sectors that are vital for Africa's future. This is the kind of legacy we are working to build, one that lasts, one that lifts, and one that leads. As we welcome our guests to our beautiful Jacaranda city this week, we want them to not only be part of the formal discussions, we want them to experience the spirit of the Tshwane melody, as some call it. And we hope that they will experience it, discover our history, which is a very long and complicated history of this country. And we want them to feel our hospitality and share in the hope of the people of Tshwane. So on June 14, as the DH said, we will proudly showcase some of our most iconic sites, the Union Buildings, Dinokeng Game Reserve, and Freedom Park. Each of these places tells a story about who we are as the city of Tshwane and what we are working to become. Tshwane is ready, and we could not have done this without the support and the collaboration of our sister city, the city of Johannesburg. And Mayor Morero, I truly believe that on behalf of the municipalities in South Africa, they will be proud of the efforts that we've put in to make sure that we deliver an African-centered urban 20 cycle of 2025. Thank you so much. Yes.
Whoa.
Changing chairs. You can take the rest.
But there's a motion against me, so I'm not sure.
It was not tabled in Tshwane, I can promise you.
I should change chairs. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and greetings to the Executive Mayor, Mayor Moya, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Modise, and the members of the Mayoral Committee of Tshwane. I'm told there's a member called Rambo.
Yeah.
He can join the bomb squad. So, ladies and gentlemen, fellow South Africans, today marks an important milestone on our journey as we co-host alongside our sister city Tshwane of the Urban 2025, a moment of both strategic and symbolic significance for Johannesburg, Tshwane, and our country. When Johannesburg and Tshwane assumed the mantle of leadership from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil in November 2024, we made a deliberate choice to bring the priorities of the South African cities and indeed of the African continent firmly into the global urban conversations. We did so not as hosts alone, but as advocates for inclusive, just, and sustainable cities. At the inaugural Sherpa gathering in March, we tabled our priorities that would anchor our U20 agenda. It's deeply reflective of South Africa's developmental trajectory, but also resonates with global urban realities. And these are the four priorities that were tabled, one being economic opportunities and urban financing, which we think are the key issues that will focus on unlocking investment pipelines for cities and closing the growing infrastructure gap. Two, it's issues around climate action and urban resilience, recognizing that cities must be both frontline responders and proactive planners in an age of climate disruption. Thirdly, it's social inclusion and equity, asserting that urban transformation must dismantle historical inequalities and build a future that leaves no one behind. The fourth one in digital transformation and innovation, embracing the digital shift, not as a luxury but as a public good that enhances how cities function and serve. So these are important priorities that we've put on the table, which will therefore take us right up to the summit in September, and we will then present those to the G20 network, and subsequently they will become the foundation of the 2025 Urban 20 communique and key policy output that will formally be submitted to the President of South Africa in September, in line with the G20 host country tradition. So throughout the past few months, it is important to also note that we have had, or rather we have deepened the agenda through a series of high-impact webinars, and these platforms drew in broad spectrum of voices from the global north, including global south, from academia, civil society, and the private sector, reflecting the power of shared urban dialogue in shaping solutions that are not only ambitious, but grounded in real experience. So therefore, we believe that we are on the right track in hosting this summit, and we hope that the media in South Africa will acknowledge that, of course, the mayors and Sherpas and city networks from across the entire G20 will convene to deliberate to endorse the final U20 communique. The communique of the U20 is the one that speaks to the four priorities, and to reaffirm the role of cities in solving the grand challenges of our time. And in parallel, we will host a diverse program of sessions curated by global and regional partners such as the South African Cities Network, the Gauteng City Region Observatory, and the city of Copenhagen. We have also invited, or will be hosting, the Food and Agricultural Organization, the UN Habitat, and SALGA, so that we expand on the conversation beyond the four priorities and laying the groundwork for the Urban 20 in September. Having highlighted these issues, finally, the U20 communique will become the outcome of months of dialogue, consensus building, and shared reflection, will serve as a formal input into the G20 Social Summit and its engagement and working groups. But more than that, it will be a testament to how cities, including Johannesburg, are not just implementing global policy, they are shaping it. In submitting this communique to the President of South Africa, we do so with pride, confidence, and a clear message. Urban transformation is not a side issue. It is central to national development, to economic renewal, and to global progress. Let this be Joburg's call to the world that cities matter, African cities matters, and the time for inclusive, resilient, and future-ready urban future is now. I thank you. Do I change again?
Thank you very much, Executive Mayors, Dr. Nasipi and Mayor Morero. We now on the Q&A. We'll invite the members of the media. My name is Chris Wondo. I'm the spokesperson of the executive mayor in the city of Joburg. I'm co-chairing with the spokesperson of the mayor of Tshwane. We invite the members of the media to engage our mayors on the statements that have been delivered. We request the members of the media to indicate their names, their media houses, and table their questions. Can I? Okay. Number one, number two. Number three. Any other takers? Okay.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Am I audible? Can I proceed?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sisanda Mboleko from the Sunday Times. Can we please have a quick reflection on the journey of coordination with planning these events between Johannesburg and Tshwane? Has it been smooth sailing? What are some of the challenges that you might have faced along the way? And secondly, are you proud of the state of the cities that you'll be presenting to our international guests this week? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Program Director. My name is Lunga. I'm from the Mail and Guardian. Mine will slightly divert from what's happening here. But I just want to find out from yourselves, the mayors of the Economic Hub of South Africa, to say, what do you make of Helen Ziller possible wanting to be mayor of Johannesburg? And of course, we know the relationship between Action SA and the DA. So both the mayors, can you please give me a take on that? Thank you.
Good morning, or afternoon actually. Nokanya Mdambu from Eyewitness News. I'm not sure if I heard you correctly, but you mentioned the first draft of the communique. If I heard correctly, can we get a sense of what that first draft looks like? And whether or not some of your expectations in terms of the consensus going into the first meetings have been met in terms of what you have in the communique. The second one, I don't think Lunga is completely out of pocket when he asks the question about Helen Ziller, but maybe more so about political instability or political uncertainty, and going into these meetings, what your contribution or your thoughts are around uncertainty, particularly when it comes to you, Mayor Morero, your future in Joburg, whether or not going into these meetings you reckon you're safe. Mayor Moya, you, I think a few days ago, had touted an agricultural strategy for Tshwane. What do you imagine that looks like in the context of U20? Obviously, South Africa and Africa are big agricultural producers. What does that look like for that strategy? Also speaking about the Tshwane fresh produce market that obviously feeds a lot into the rest of Africa. What does fixing the market itself look like and feeding into that strategy in the broader context of U20? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll allow Mayor Dr. Nasipi to respond, and Mayor Morero, and then we'll allow the Decilo to deal with the question of the communique first draft. Over to you, Mayor Nasipi.
No, you can start.
I'll give a mic.
Yeah,
Who's starting?
You can proceed.
Ladies first.
No,
I don't like it. I think let's start with Sisanda, whether the journey has been smooth. Unless someone did not tell me something, but the coordination has actually been very professional, because there's two levels. There's the level between myself and the mayor, then there's the level of our Sherpas, which is our COO, as well as I think is head of governance in the city of Joburg, and the different teams. It's gone so well that they've also been able to rope in other entities such as SALGA, National Department of COCTA, the province, and different role players. I think what was, for me, that was beneficial was the discussion that I had with Mayor Morero at the beginning in terms of having to outline our expectations of exactly what is it that is our hope to get out of this whole process. And I think the bigger picture has anchored us towards getting such things. I think the decision, for instance, to host the African mayors, it's not a typical decision to be made. But we, in our reflections, then we realized there's a gap, because we were in Rio when the African mayors, they had a table there, and you could see how disconnected we were from the discussions. And because we both shared that reflection, and so I think the bigger picture has anchored us to, towards a situation that when he's done hosting the Mayoral Summit in September, we should be proud of what we will be heading over to G20. What we don't want is to have cities that don't want to endorse the communique because we have not been inclusive, the content itself doesn't speak to them. So I think my reflections is that we've done a good job in showcasing that if government works together, we can achieve more. I think on the issue of whether we are proud of the cities that we are presenting to the people, these are our cities, Sisanda. We must be proud. These are our homes. We must be proud. Does it mean we can't do more? We will do more. We are doing more to make sure that we are proud of these homes that are our cities. But it doesn't mean that we're going to hide ourselves and we'll hide our homes from the world. So from where I stand, there's, or you would know, there's a lot of work that we need to do in both cities to make sure that our cities are homes that our residents are proud of. And I mean, the excursions that will be taken in Tshwane, that's me, as a leader in Tshwane, being proud to showcase that the world doesn't know this history. And it's about time that you don't think that Tshwane is just a capital city. This is a home with history that spans over 160 years in the city of Tshwane in particular. So yes, we will do more, obviously. In terms of the issue of Helen Zille, I mean, we, like other citizens, I learned of it on social media, but I do believe that each party must start thinking about their processes and their candidates going to 2026. It's interesting, to say the least, that they would go for that particular person to bring to the city of Joburg all the way from Western Cape, but I don't have much to say on this one. I think the issue of the first draft, Kanya Usilo will deal with that because that's still on the Sherpa side. But Silo will explain also, coupling that with what Mayor Morero has outlined as the four priorities that we have outlined. But I think in terms of the agriculture strategy, so we have adopted the economic revitalization strategy 2025 to 2029 as this administration. We adopted it in council 2 months ago. And this strategy targets 11 sectors. Agriculture and agri-processing is one of them. So what we have been doing, we've been meeting the different sectors, whether it's the informal sector or township economy sector, because it's part of the sector, the automotive sector is part of it, the diplomatic economy, student economy. So we've been having the series of stakeholder engagement to firstly, to explain what is it that we're trying to achieve out of this Tshwane economic revitalization strategy. We have outlined the 3.9% target that we have for our economic growth over a period of 5 years, that we say we will get that if we attract between 17 and 26 billion rand of investment in the next 5 years, and we are hoping to get 80,000 out of it. Particularly when it comes to the agriculture strategy, one of the things that came out of that engagement is that we're in the process of reviewing the agriculture strategy for the city. Now we will do it with the sector so that whatever we produce, it's something that speaks to the sector as well. And the reason why we forced to meet them last week was that by the time we have these discussions about food security at the African Mayors meeting, we have some voice that we are representing in those discussions, that we've got hungry residents in Tshwane. About 22% of our people go to bed without food because they live below poverty line. We've got unemployed people, and we are saying Tshwane, with all the land that we have, we can turn the city of Tshwane into a green revolution, and nothing stops us from doing that. And we also want to say, as African cities, we must start using what we have and not wanting the things that we don't have. We start at home. We know that our strength is agriculture, for us to feed our people and grow our economy. Well, let's then capitalize on that strength. So that is the conversation that will be taken forward. The the fresh produce market is one of the strategic assets of the city that we've been talking about. We've spoken about Vonebom Airport, the showgrounds. We've spoken about the power stations. Fresh produce market for us, we always compare ourselves to the Joburg produce market. That we've got farmers who live Tshwane, they go and become Mayor Morero's clients while they are our clients as the city of Tshwane. That we must fix that produce market so that we can support the agriculture sector in the city. So those are the discussions, but there is work that is being done to make sure that we upgrade the fresh produce market already. But there's other work that we need to do with the sector so that that asset can propel the economic growth, especially in the agriculture sector. Thank you.
Thanks, Majoro. Maybe let me respond first to Nogukanya and Lunga. I'm not sure why the DA would have made that statement whilst they've got the leadership in Johannesburg. So I think the problem could be with the DA in acknowledging and recognizing their own people in Johannesburg. So we'll wait for the list processes to begin. But at the same time, we were thinking this morning that the statement could have been propelled by the fact that there's something now happening in Johannesburg and the ANC and its coalition partners are turning the city around. It could mean that they're realizing that something is happening. We have put together a team of job workers. Majority of them have been city managers of Johannesburg and Tshwane, who have put together as a team to help us turn around Johannesburg. And we actually also extended the invite to some amongst their ranks. We shall not mention their names now until they've confirmed availability. Is it as a result of the fact that we extended to job workers who are in the ranks of the Democratic Alliance, that they are realizing that something is now happening in turning around Johannesburg? Is it weakening them as a political party towards the 2026 election? Bringing a big person like Zille, would it help them to turn it around? Perhaps that's what they're probably trying to do, and we'll leave it to them, but we are ready for the work that we're doing in Johannesburg, and we're beginning to see results, and we've beefed up the work with the establishment of the presidential support package, with the bomb squad, which is the team I like, which is going to help us to turn around Johannesburg. In terms of whether our cities are stable, politically we are stable. These coalitions both in Tshwane and in Johannesburg have been stable, and we've seen the stability of the political leadership in Johannesburg and working very well. So there are no issues in terms of political stability, and hence things are happening. We've had the opportunity to pass a budget a funded budget, by the way, which we passed in council. I think it's an 89 billion budget. Tshwane is not even coming near. So we had the capacity to do so, which demonstrates that we are beginning to turn the city around Nobukani. So there is work that's been done now. So I suspect that we are stable politically. We are now stabilizing the administration. We should be appointing the city manager in the next 2 months or so. So we are on track in terms of stabilizing the city of Joburg. We are making good partnerships with the private sector, partnerships that are working in Joburg. It's not just lip service, they are there, they are active, and they're also part of the presidential package. They're also part of our bomb squad. So in essence, those partnerships are beginning to yield results in us turning around Johannesburg. I'd also like to take the question of Sisanda. The coordination was very well. I think the mayor's answered it very well. There was no point where we could not click. In fact, when we were both in Brazil, when we arrived there, we did have a chat, me and her. At that time, there was also a city of Tshwane as part of the nominees, if I may put it in that way. And we had a very long discussion, the three of us. And in that discussion, immediately Tshwane said they're withdrawing from the hosting, and it left the two of us. And with the engagement with the General Secretary of the UCLG, we then came to a conclusion that the best possible ways to co-host. And since then, we've been working very well with the mayor in hosting this event. There were no real issues that we had. We have answered your questions. Agriculture is an important part. In Johannesburg, we hosted just recently a conference of they call it the World Union of Wholesale Markets. It was a very successful conference, and the intention was to begin to engage with other markets in the continent and especially in Europe, which went very well. Without saying much, the Johannesburg market is also doing well, and I think there could be exchanges between ourselves and the Tshwane market to get the Tshwane market back on track, which is a possibility of something that could be done. We have increased possibly our turnover, maybe because of the work that we're doing. We are now our turnover for about R1 billion a month, which demonstrates that something is being done. But over and above, we need to now think about how do we take the markets to the townships, so the township economy can benefit from the agricultural sector, and that's what we should be doing moving forward in both the city of Tshwane and the city of Johannesburg.
The state of Joburg and international guests, are you proud of the state of the city?
Well, there's work that we constantly are doing to turn around the city. I was making an example that in Ward 90, there's no pothole. So I did an exercise last weekend. I went with the inspectors. One of the inspectors called and said, Mr. Mayor, you know that in 90, where we are working with his team, there's no pothole. So I went around there. Then I realized that we are turning this thing around. The problem has been big since 2016, and we can't deny it. And the decline started happening there. And for us to reclaim it requires a lot of work. And that is why we are bringing all these interventions so that we can turn it around. But we are proud of the work we're doing. And I think eventually the city will look completely different from what it is now. So we are doing well.
Thank you, Executive Mayors. And indeed, before I get to respond on the status of the communique, just to underscore the level of collaboration that has been displayed by the two cities. As someone that is being in this processes of hosting this U20 around numerous other global cities, it is for the first time that co-hosting cities are able to start the process and take it through still being together like we see our two executive mayors. You take it from Brazil, there was a Rio, Sao Paulo, U20, they could not agree. They ended up duplicating the programs. And in our case, we were able to say we will share the Sherpa meetings and Joburg will take the summit. We also saw that in Milan and Rome, there also was no agreement, and I think it is a demonstration of how much collaboration the two political principals have undertaken. And also on a technical level. We also reached out to our colleagues in Johannesburg. We embarked on a number of workshops and team building sessions just to make sure that we are one as we approach this, because it is quite a massive event, as Executive Mayor Moya has indicated, the first of its kind on African soil. So we really needed to be on the same page in that regard. And I would really also like to echo their sentiment on that level of partnership and collaboration. The spirit of the communique is such that all the participating cities need to sign it off. And as I've indicated in the South African cycle, those four priorities have been already as part of the foundation of this communique, and of course the first and the second draft are centered around that. Having said that, it has been noted that the global South cities, and not only African, even you go to South American, you go to some of the Asian countries, have been in the past, some of them not even signing the communique, simply because they feel that it encroaches on their sovereignty. And in the context of South African cities, the issue there has been that we are not on the same level of advancement, both the global north and the global south. We have got unique challenges, mainly socio-economic challenges, and therefore our transition cannot be on the same level and at the same pace. And lastly, what is important is that with the natural resources that the region, particularly Africa, is endowed with, we believe that that should be used as part of our transition to leapfrog into the required transition mode. And therefore, it is important that as we do that transition, we also take along. That is the reason why the inclusivity aspect of it is important. Equity and inclusivity is very key in our endeavor to fulfill that particular role. At this point, we aren't in a position to divulge more because it is still under closed and embargoed discussions. It's only after it is finalized that we will be able to can share the entire communique. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just to emphasize a point in terms of how will we link the African mayors discussions and the Sherpas. So on the second day of the African mayors discussion, we will pause and we'll ask the Sherpas to come and join us, and we will hand over the inputs of the African cities mayors. And the reason why that is important, we want to make our submissions in a very constructive way, and considering the fact that not all the African mayors are part of CFOD and UCLG. So this is our way of formalizing the submission of African mayors into the communique process. So I thought that was important to mention as well. Thank you.
Thank you, our executive mayors and Dr. Silo. I will, in the absence of hands, I will now oh, okay, you want to take the second bite, Alex? And then I see the two hands that side as well.
Thanks so much. It's Alex Patrick from News 24. Mayor Morero, just because you spoke about the bomb squad, just wondering if the bomb squad procurement will be done on an emergency basis, or will the procurement rules be followed? Thank you.
Malendle Mthethwa for SABC News. Mr. Mayor, do you think that the DA Federal Chair, Helen Zille, could pose a threat to you returning post the next year's elections? Just by the way. But back on today's topic, the city of Johannesburg and the city of Tshwane are faced with similar challenges. This is urban decay as well as the issue of crime. And with the U20 being held just this week, are you able to, confirm or provide confidence to those who will be attending that they will be safe in the streets, given the fact that crime is such a huge issue? And also, how are we going to be using this platform to address the issue of urban decay, given the fact that we have the same problem in both cities, where the cities have been overtaken by illegal migration and illegally occupied buildings also being a huge factor?
Thank you. Nokanya again from EWN. Just to follow up first on the communique, look, and I press you please, even though you say it's embargoed for now and you can't go into too much of the detail on what's entailed in it, but can you give us a sense on, of those 4 priorities, where are you finding common ground and where are you not? In the briefing that you had when you first was a scene setter back, I think it was March, at GCIS, I think I'd raised a query about the issue of climate financing, for example, because the US, for example, wasn't willing to sign on a more national scale, wasn't willing to sign on. Are you finding that on a local government scale, those are some of the same issues that you're finding? If not, where are you finding ground and consensus with each other, and where are you not? And then, can we also get a sense in terms of the fundraising drive that you mentioned you had a week, 2 weeks ago? Just a recap, please. How much were you able to raise in that fundraising drive, and what are those funds going to be earmarked for? And then a last one, going back to the US and its participation, I can't find the list now, but I think there are 3 cities from the US that are part of this current C60 cohort, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Mayor Morero, in March, you had mentioned that one of them, I can't remember which of the 3, that they were democratic and that there wasn't necessarily the same pushback that we were seeing from the Republicans on a more national scale. So in terms of these 3 cities that we do have that are under U20, what sort of lobbying are you going to have to do? Mayor Moya, you said showcasing South Africa and showing people that South Africa really is a beautiful place and beating some of the narratives that are out there. So when you've got US officials in South Africa, what sort of lobbying are you having to do with them to take back the message of, obviously bearing in mind what we've seen the US in South Africa and the claims of genocide, and do you imagine that's going to have to play out as well when you meet with some of the US cities that will be here? Thank you.
You want me to come back first?
Thank you. I will go straight to the communique, and I must also appreciate, the interest, because in most cases, this high-level engagements, they end up being about the event itself. However, the content aspect of it, which is crucial, which determines the policy framework, aren't normally, given attention. So I appreciate that aspect. Starting with common ground, there is acknowledgement in the Urban 20 grouping that the level of investment in terms of particularly the Global South from multilateral banks in particular have not been supportive of the emissions reduction targets. And as a result, we agree that there needs to be more investments in that particular space, particularly that will be embedded within the city or the urban management space. Issues of the ecological infrastructure investments, there has not really been receiving that level of support. And in particular, our cities in South Africa, for example, when we talk of the impacts, what comes to mind immediately is the extreme heat. It's the flooding that happens quite now even more often, and those are unfortunately attacking or affecting the most vulnerable. So the investment in the adaptation space has been one of those that we are pursuing and we are agreeing. On the approach from the African region, sometime in February there was a summit of mayors, and whereby they also agreed that there needs to be an open letter to the respective finance ministers, and that speaks to particularly the need for changing the way the funding mechanism, particularly of cities, is entrenched. There is a fundamental need to revisit how cities are funded, and in particular in terms of climate finance itself. Earlier on, Executive Mayor Moya indicated that the city of Tshwane is already embarking on the climate budgeting space, and we believe that it will be one of those tools that will be able to accelerate and amplify the need for us to have our investments aligned with that particular space. We should be able to share at the end of the sessions as to how far have we gone, even though it will not be the final communique, but there will be at least the representatives of UCLG and the C40 that we cannot speak on their behalf now at this particular forum. Thank you very much. The other question, which I think the leaders can respond to, was the American cities.
He'll take the American cities. but you can confirm which ones are coming.
Oh, yes. Confirmed is Los Angeles and New York for now. And I think I did indicate that we might be having additional 2 by end of business today. So the Los Angeles and New York are definitely coming. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I think I will go to Mbalenhle. In terms of the challenges that the cities are facing, particularly urban decay. But before we go there, I need to assure you that we, in terms of the protocols, diplomatic protocols, of course, there is a particular way we will take care of our guests in line with the diplomatic protocol. But we are a city that is improving in terms of public safety. If you had listened to the crime stats, you will see that we are a city that is really turning things around when it comes to public safety. Because what we don't want is to have, a plan just for visitors. That plan doesn't work for residents. So generally in the city of Tshwane, when it comes, for instance, visibility of TMPD, our work with SABC, just to make sure that the city is safe, that work is underway. But for the guests, we working very closely with DERCO and other entities just to make sure that our visitors will feel safe and that they will be well taken care of. In terms of the urban decay, I think I just want to echo what Mayor Morero said about Joburg, that he is, as a leader, he feels that there's work, tangible outcomes, and and evidence to say that City of Joburg is turning around. We would like to say the same as the leadership of the City of Tshwane. We I always, when I explain it, I always say if you had a city without a funded budget for 4 years, you are bound to deal with the backlog in service delivery. But we haven't used that as an excuse. But we have, on a single day, we've got teams that are working on the ground on different functions and services and delivering services to the people. So the urban decay has stopped in Tshwane, that much I can tell you, that we are turning things around. Of course, it's going to take a bit of time for us to get where we want, but it's all hands on deck in Tshwane, that the city is being turned around. I think there are areas that for us are a hotspot, and one thing I like about us in the city is that we don't hide our dirty linen, we hang it for everyone to see. We report to residents in terms of the progress that we are making, but also when good things are happening, we also do inform the residents that now we are making progress. So I think we'll get to a point where we say, the city of Tshwane, we can't talk about urban decay, but maybe urban recovery. And so issues of illegal immigration, it's interesting you raise this. You know this is a national crisis. I've said it. At other people's dismay, like why would you say it? It is a national crisis, ladies and gentlemen. The fact that you get people arrested today, they are back where they are, where they stayed 2 weeks later, it means that we've got a problem that's beyond the city of Tshwane. And so, in so far as this conversation is concerned, we've had 2 engagements with the African Diplomatic Corps in particular, because there's a perception that we are targeting only African illegal immigrants. No, we are targeting lawlessness. That's what we are targeting. And in the first conversation, of course, it was important for us to explain our rationale and our approach to them. And the second one, I think we found each other, even though there are conversations that need to follow in so far as how do they help us as the city when their residents or their citizens or in their country of birth are found to be in South Africa illegally? What is their role as the African Diplomatic Corps? But for us as the city of Tshwane, we have declared war on lawlessness on many fronts. We don't have a scale of lawlessness and say this is a small lawlessness, this is medium. All lawlessness we have, and you would have seen in terms of the kind of bylaw enforcements that TMPD has started to be doing, is things that are unprecedented in the city of Tshwane, because there's been tolerance on lawlessness in this in the city. I think the last part, Silo, is the issue of fundraising. There's a part you did not respond to, but it was important that we embark on fundraising. It would have been very much bad for us to say, residents, we can't give you street lights, but we can earmark money for an event, not when you have willing partners. So through the likes partners and stakeholders like DSO Consulting, we approached them, and we said, and others that will be funding various parts of the program. And we're creative in terms of the Energy Summit, that we're able to merge, different events so that we can use the same money that would have been used for a different event to host this event. But it would not have been good for us as this executive to tell the residents that there's no money for other services, but there's money to host events. Hence, it was important for us been used for a different event to host this event, but it would not have been good for us as this executive to tell but there's money to host events. Hence, it was important for us to raise funds. So the leadership of the city, we've been begging, knocking at different doors to raise the funds for this event. But the details, I'm sure Silo can share the details, how much and who exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe let me deal with the Zile question. My suspicion is the ANC will be contesting elections in 2026, and the process of selection of candidates will then happen at that time. Should I be appointed the candidate at that time? I think I'll be ready. In fact, the work that we are doing now and between the elections will also determine whether we are worthy of leading the city of Joburg. So I think at that point, we'll be ready to lead. And I'm not so concerned. I'm thinking more that the DA itsugile more than anything, because they're realizing that things are being done. You have a funded budget. Your infrastructure plan is in place. You have put money for infrastructure refurbishment. So they're realizing that something is indeed happening. And therefore, they've already declared local government elections anyway. They're already there when all of us are not yet into an electioneering mode. So I'll leave it at that. I would imagine that day comes and the poster is me, the other one is Zile. It will be very interesting for South Africa to witness that type of a thing, but it will be very interesting. Maybe the EFF will say, no, we're bringing the CIC. The ANC then say, that is Landumbeki. So maybe it might be interesting to see. So I think that's how I'll respond to the question. I think on the urban decay, we're doing a lot, both cities. You could see. You just have to come in when we call you to on the walkabouts so that you can see that there's something that's being done. The pace in which it's being done is not probably what the media would want to appreciate, but the pace is a bit slower. But once we start picking up, you'll see that there's something that we are doing in our cities to turn them around. We just declared last week to reclaim dumping spots in the townships, and we are now building small parks to turn around the dumping sites. So there's work that's being done even in the townships to turn around the urban decay. If you look at the United States of America, majority of local government or cities are in the hands of the Democrats. I'm trying to respond to Nogukani. They're still in the hands of the Democrats in the United States. And I think I was supposed to have visited Atlanta because there's common relations between Johannesburg and Atlanta. And I think it was at a point where the inauguration happened, and we then agreed that let's put it on hold because they're also not sure of what is the national political landscape in the United States. But those that we have invited have been very positive in supporting initiatives of the Global South. They were part of the communique in Brazil, in Rio, and committed. For example, we adopted a decision that the just transition must be just. And they supported that argument as American cities. So there's always a disjuncture, of course, between the Democrats and Republicans, especially as it relates to foreign policy. They differ much. So in essence, we think the mayors will be here and they will be articulating positions that are supporting the priorities that we have already set. And we believe those mayors will be supporting them at those positions. So I thought I needed just to answer that question and put it into context. Indeed, there are relations that between South Africa and the United States, and our delegations have been going to the US, coming back and trying to unlock some of the disagreements that were there. But I think there's already a pronouncement by the US president that he will be form part of the G20. And South Africa's position remains that we need to maintain relations with other nations, especially those nations that we are trading with. So it's an important partner or trading partner that we continue to harness the relations between South Africa and the United States, Russia, India, and all other nations that we think are important towards economic growth of South Africa. So that's where we are, and I think we should be proud of the media this time around, and I think you saw the interview by Tshidi Madia, positioning South Africa as a country, and other journalists who were part of the delegation. And I felt that the media actually stood up and put a correct perspective about our country, that there's no genocide in South Africa. I suppose if there was genocide, Brink would have not been the mayor here, because genocide would have dealt with him long ago. So it confirms that there's no genocide. Alex, there's no genocide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Executive Mayor, Dr. Nasipi. We now want to, obviously there will be some bilaterals if you want to do the one-on-ones with the executive mayors, but I think they are also pressed for another engagement. So
we're going to
request
SAC.
the executive mayor, deputy executive mayor. I don't want to.
Receive.
Deputy executive mayor. Councillor Eugene Mudise Fraponzo to do the honors.
Thank you very much. This is a wonderful moment for giving vote of thanks for two cities. Firstly, let me appreciate the decent work that you have done, Sam and Chris, for running the program in a decent fashion. And I want to extend a sole appreciation visit to the two mayors from Brazil till today, the collaboration which you sustained in a great manner. We truly appreciate that. And I think it's important that you take this forward. It must not halt after this event, U20. We must take it up. And I want to appreciate the response of Dada Morero in terms of the statement of the TA. Actually, you have captured it succinctly. It's a demonstration of vote of no confidence on the leadership of DA in Johannesburg and Gauteng by extension. So what we need to do, and I thought you will speak about this, that we are the trailblazers in terms of the budget. So one of the things that you one thing that you must emulate is part of the hallmark of this executive is to ignore negativity and focus on saving our people. But maybe at some point it will be ideal for Lunga to run a story about recycling leadership of the DA. And we are looking forward to that. Thank you very much, media people. We truly appreciate your presence here. You have assisted us a great deal in making sure that there's awareness, and we truly, truly appreciate that. We are deeply grateful and looking forward to working with you. At this stage, and I think Dr. Nasipi and Morero have captured it correctly, you are reporting accurately and responsibly, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.